Hello and welcome back to Zenin Fanfics. Today we're starting an exciting new series. What if Deku received his own Pokémon? If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content. The story we're featuring is written by Spider Michael on Wattpad. You can find all the relevant links in the description, so be sure to check out the author's profile and say hello. Now, let's dive into the story. Izuku Midoriya, age 14, home region. Hoenn. Izuku, are you still asleep? The green-haired boy's mother yells from the living room. Arceus, I wish. Her son yells back with his head in his pillow. Well, I guess you're gonna miss the boat for you. She slyly yells with a smirk and her son quickly lifts his head. Oh no. Izuku says before throwing off his covers, revealing a sleeping Eevee curled up and snoring. Eevee, wake up, we gotta get to the boat before it takes off. Izuku says while throwing on clothes. The Pokémon squeaks before waking up and quickly jumps off the bed in excitement. Izuku, get up. Inko yells, in a minute. Izuku yells back, putting on his shirt. All right, let's go, he says while throwing on his backpack and turning towards his Pokémon, who was wagging his tail in excitement next to the door. Izuku picks up Eevee and places him on his shoulder and opens the door. All right, Mom, we're off, he shouts before walking down the stairs. You're not leaving without a hug, she says, squeezing him in a bear hug, and Eevee hops onto his head to avoid it and snickers. Mom, I gotta go, he struggles to say. In a minute, she smiles. Evoy. Eevee hops down and starts scratching at the door, and Inko giggles. All right, you can go, she says, dropping Izuku, letting him breathe. Oh, so you listen to him, he complains, and Eevee sends a swift star his way. Hey, no moves in the house. Izuku scolds, but his Pokémon just mocks him. Okay, let's go, he says, picking up Eevee and heading off to UA. While he walks down the street, Pokémon in hand, he looks around to see people and Pokémon alike living side by side. He sees a boy cleaning twigs and leaves out of his Mareep's wool, and a Sawadel weaving leaves into its trainer's shirt. He turns his head the other way to see a Hoot Hoot keeping its trainer from looking at her phone, and a Zigzagoon stealing a little boy's hot dogs. In this world of people and Pokémon, some parents are either too overprotective or just plain rich to the point where they keep their children home instead of letting them go out on a Pokémon journey, and that's where UA High School comes in. It allows its students to get their starter Pokémon and go on a journey in every region. Izuku looks down to see Eevee sleeping in his arms. He smiles before he arrives at the terminal. He looks back up and finds a massive boat in front of him. He walks over towards the ticket booth and smiles. Hi, I'm here to board this. Nana, he says, and the booth lady smiles. Of course, I just need your ticket, she responds, and Izuku tries to move his arm, but Eevee growls. He tries again but gets the same response. It's in my backpack, so could you fish it out, he says, and she giggles before unzipping his backpack. That's a cute Eevee. When did you catch him? Flashback. Izuku, age 10. Izuku walks into the front door to his house and places high backpack down next to the coat rack. Hey Mom, I'm back, he calls out, but his mom doesn't answer. Mom, the boy calls out, walking further into the house. He reached his parents' room and heard crying on the other side of the door. He opened it to help whoever was on the other side and found his mother sitting on her side of the bed crying while holding a piece of paper. He walks up and hugs his mom, hoping to comfort her. She wipes her tears away and looks at her son. What's wrong, Mom? He asks, and she hands him a note that was on her nightstand. He takes it and starts reading. Izuku, I'm going to share a secret with you. I'm not a big fan of kids and I hate babies. And yet I couldn't help but stare at you in awe. You weren't even a day old, and holding you is the most incredible thing I've done in my life, a life that's about to be cut short. Your mother will look after you. There's no one in this world I trust more than her. When the time comes, she'll tell you about me. Don't give her too much of a hard time. Try not to be as stubborn as me. I'm not going to lie, this is a pretty messed up world. It won't be easy. The thing you always have to remember is that life is worth living. Find a purpose and fight for it. I see so much strength in you. I know you'll turn out to be the man you're meant to be. Forever your loving father, Hisashi. Make me proud, Izuku. A teardrop lands on the paper and Izuku sobs, and his mother nudges his shoulder. He looked up at her and was met with a pokeball in his face. Your dad wanted to give you this on your birthday, but of course he missed it because he was in the hospital. Here, take it. She handed him the Pokeball with a teary smile. He opens it and pops out Eevee and Flashback. He was a birthday gift, he says as the lady takes the ticket out of his backpack. Ah, that's sweet, your ticket checks out, have a safe trip, she says, and Izuku begins to walk away. Thanks, you too, he replies, but with instant regret. Why did I say that? He thinks Izuku boards the ship and makes it to his cabin, somehow opening the door with no arms free. He lays Eevee down on his bed, knowing full well that the Pokémon will just get flung off when the boat starts moving. He snickers to himself as he leaves the room. Izuku mindlessly walks around the boat, noticing multiple kids his age, and a lot of them had Pokémon with them, most socializing, some playing and others relaxing. He makes it to the back of the ship where he believes he finds the hangout spot for all the kids because there was a pool in the middle of it with at least 20 boys and girls swimming around in it. He looks to his left, which leads inside of the ship, and sees more kids inside eating and drinking. He wants to explore more, so he walks inside. He reaches for the door, but it swings open without warning and hits him in the face. He steps back in pain. Before he can apologize, he hears a voice he didn't want to hear. The hell are you doing here, Izuku's former best friend Katsuki Bakugo yells at him. He looks up with fear in his eyes. I am here to enter you. Like you could get in that Eevee of yours is too useless, you're gonna have to use one of their hand-me-downs. He looks at Izuku's feet and backs up to the boy. Where is it anyway? Did you finally get rid of it? That's a shame, Growlithe here was looking to beat it senseless again. Katsuki brags before gesturing to his shiny Growlithe. I didn't get rid of him. I would never do such a thing. Izuku responds before gathering all the confidence he has. Now move. He looks past Izuku towards someone and smirks. You got lucky today, Deku. He shoulder checks Izuku as he walks past him. Izuku was about to break down in fear but was interrupted by the PA system. Attention future UA students, we will be leaving the dock momentarily. Our next and final stop, the Kalos region. Achiko Uraraka, age 14, home region. Kalos. The gentle aroma of blooming flowers filled the air as Achiko Uraraka darted through the cobblestone streets of Coumarine City, her small feet kicking up dust as she hurried to the Pokémon Center. The port town's lighthouse loomed in the distance, its light faintly glowing even in the daylight. Her backpack bounced with every step, and in her arms was a hand-me-down bag filled with essentials for her upcoming journey. Raraka, wait for me, a boy's voice called from behind her. Tenya Ida, her childhood friend, was struggling to keep up. He adjusted his glasses, his serious expression barely masking his excitement. He carried his Pokeball tightly in one hand, containing his loyal Pokémon, a honage passed down from his family. Hurry up, Ida. We're going to miss it. Achiko called back, laughing as she reached the Pokémon Center's doors. Inside, Nurse Joy was tending to trainers and their Pokémon, the hum of healing machines and the chatter of travelers creating a warm, bustling atmosphere. Achiko stopped at the counter, catching her breath. Nurse Joy. I'm here to pick up my ticket for the SSN. The pink-haired nurse smiled warmly. Of course, Achiko. One moment. She tapped on her computer and handed over a ticket embossed with the ship's logo. Are you excited? Heading to UA High is quite the adventure. Achiko nodded, her brown eyes gleaming with determination. Yes. I can't wait to see what Pokémon I'll get. Tenya finally caught up, panting heavily. You should have waited for me, he gasped, adjusting his tie. Achiko giggled. You've got to work on your stamina, Ida. You're going to need it at UA. He straightened up, his pride kicking in. Of course, you're right. As future students of UA High, we must prepare ourselves for any challenge. Achiko smiled at his enthusiasm. But as she glanced at her reflection in the polished tiles of the Pokémon Center, her expression faltered. Unlike Tenya, she didn't have a Pokémon yet. She hadn't even had the chance to catch one. Don't worry, Uraraka, Tenya said, noticing her hesitation. You'll get a Pokémon at UA. And I'm sure it'll be amazing. She nodded, pushing her doubts aside. You're right. This is my chance to prove myself. Later that day, Achiko stood at the Coumarine port with Tenya, the salty breeze ruffling her short hair. The SSN towered before them, its grand hull gleaming in the sunlight. Trainers and students crowded the dock, saying their goodbyes to their families or chatting excitedly with new friends. Wow, Achiko whispered. It's so big. Tenya adjusted his glasses. Indeed. A vessel of this size is most efficient for long-distance travel. Achiko and Tenya handed over their tickets and boarded the ship. Achiko clutched the old Pokeball tightly, promising herself she'd prove her worth no matter what. As the ship's horn blared, signaling their departure, Achiko and Tenya stood at the railing, watching the Kalos coastline fade into the horizon. The sea sparkled under the afternoon sun, and the excitement of a new journey filled the air. Achiko, have you noticed how seamlessly the ship transitions through these waves? Such craftsmanship is a testament to engineering excellence. Achiko smiled softly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Her voice trailed off as her mind wandered. This is it. I'm leaving home and starting fresh. I'll make my family proud. As the Kalos shoreline disappeared, the PA system crackled to life. Attention students. We are now en route to UA High. Expect arrival in 3 days. Remember to enjoy the facilities and get to know your fellow trainers. UA is not just a school, it's a community. The announcement was met with cheers from the deck. Trainers of all ages began mingling, their Pokémon darting about in excitement. The ship felt alive with energy. Let's explore, Achiko said, grabbing Tenya's arm and dragging him along. Inside the ship, the dining hall buzzed with activity. Long tables were filled with students eating, chatting, and sharing stories about their Pokémon. Achiko's eyes lit up as she caught sight of a group of girls sitting together, laughing and exchanging snacks. Go ahead, Tenya said, nudging her gently. You should meet them. I'll find my way to the boys. Are you sure? Achiko asked, hesitant. He nodded firmly. Absolutely. It's important to establish connections early. With a deep breath, Achiko approached the table. A pink-haired girl waved her over enthusiastically. Hey, you're new, right? Sit with us, she said, scooting over to make room. Achiko smiled nervously. Thank you. I'm Achiko Uraraka. I'm Mina Ishido, the girl said brightly. And these are Jairu, Momo, and Tsu. The girl with short purple hair gave a small wave. Kyoka Jair. Nice to meet you. Beside her, a tall girl with long black hair tied in an elegant ponytail offered a polite smile. Momo Yayorozu. It's a pleasure. The final girl, with green hair and wide eyes, smiles softly. I'm Tsuyu Azui, but you can call me Tsu. Achiko sat down, feeling a bit overwhelmed but comforted by their friendly smiles. It's nice to meet all of you. Are you all going to UA too? Yep. Mina said, leaning forward. What about you? Got your Pokémon yet? Achiko flushed, gripping the old Pokeball in her hand. Not yet. I'm hoping to get one at UA. Jairu nodded. Don't worry about it. There are tons of great Pokémon at the academy. You'll find the perfect partner. The girls began chatting about their favorite Pokémon, battles they'd watched, and their hopes for the future. For the first time that day, Achiko felt herself relax. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Tenya wandered into a training room where several boys were gathered. A loud explosion echoed through the space as a Growlithe used flame burst, narrowly missing a punching bag. Watch where you're aiming. A red-haired boy with shark-like teeth yelled. Shut it, bad hair. I'm training, Katsuki Bakugo barked, his Growlithe growling in agreement. Tenya adjusted his glasses, stepping into the room. Is this a sparring area? Yeah, Kirishima said, grinning. I'm Eijiro Kirishima. You're here for UA too, right? Indeed. I'm Tenya Ida, he said with a small bow. Nearby, a boy with green hair and an EV on his shoulder waved shyly. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you. A tall boy with dual-colored hair leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. He nodded briefly. Shoto Todoroki. Another boy with wild blonde hair and a carefree grin stepped forward, holding a Pikachu that sparked playfully. I'm Denki Kaminari. Ready to spar Ida. Before Tenya could respond, a figure cloaked in shadows stepped forward, his Murkrow's black feathers gleaming under the lights. I am Fumikage Tokoyami. Tenya felt a rush of excitement. These were his future classmates, his rivals, and his friends. I look forward to training with all of you. Don't get ahead of yourself, Four Eyes, Bakugo snapped, crossing his arms. None of you stand a chance against me. Come on, Bakugo, Kirishima said, slapping him on the back. Let's at least try to get along until we get to UA. Late that night, Achiko stood on the deck, looking up at the star-filled sky. She clutched her Pokeball tightly, her heart full of hope. You, she whispered to herself, a determined smile on her face. Here I come. SSN, the students of UA Bond the first evening aboard the SS and was a buzz of activity. Students from all over the world gathered in small groups, forming the first connections that would define their time at UA High. Denki Kaminari leaned against the railing on the upper deck, trying his best to look cool. His Pikachu perched on his shoulder, sparks occasionally crackling from its cheeks. Across from him, Kyoka Jiru was tuning her guitar. Hey, Denki said, giving her his best grin. You play guitar. That's so cool. I've always thought music was, like, super electrifying. Jiru paused midstrum, raising an eyebrow. Electrifying. Seriously. Denki rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Okay, that was bad. But I really do think it's awesome. I can barely clap in rhythm. Jiru smirked, leaning back against the railing. Well, stick around, and maybe I'll teach you a thing or two. Just don't expect me to go easy on. Denki chuckled, his Pikachu hopping down to inspect Jiru's guitar. Deal. Maybe I can show you some electric moves with Pikachu in return. Jiru's smile softened. You know, you're not as bad as I thought. Just tone down the pickup lines. Denki grinned. No promises. Inside the dining hall, Shoto Todoroki sat at a corner table, silently observing the crowd. His Froke perched calmly on his shoulder, its webbed hands folded like its trainer. Mind if I sit here? A voice asked. Shoto looked up to see Momo Yaoyorozu, her polite smile as composed as ever. She held a small plate of food, her Vulpix sitting gracefully by her side. Go ahead, Shoto said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Momo sat down, carefully arranging her plate. Your Froke seems well trained. It looks very disciplined. Shoto nodded, glancing at the Pokémon. It's a reflection of the training I've received. Your Vulpix looks elegant, fitting for someone like you. Momo blinked in surprise before her cheeks turned faintly pink. Thank you. I try to ensure she's well cared for. Proper preparation and strategy are important in training, don't you think? Shoto nodded again. Agreed. A clear mind leads to clear decisions. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, the two finding common ground in their disciplined approaches to life. On the lower deck, Mina Ishido had declared the small pool area the official hangout spot. She lounged at the edge of the pool, her swinub napping beside her, as she chatted animatedly with Eijiro Kirishima. Man, this ship is insane. Kirishima said, his Carvania swimming laps in the pool. I can't believe we're going to UA on something this fancy. Right. Mina said, splashing the water playfully. It's like a mini vacation before the real work starts. Nearby, Tsuyu Azui and Fumikage Tokoyami watched the pair with mild amusement. Tsuyu's Poliwag floated lazily in the water, while Tokoyami's Murkrow perched on his shoulder. Do you think they ever stop talking? Tokoyami asked in his usual monotone. Probably not, Tsuyu replied, her calm demeanor contrasting with the energy around her. But it's kind of nice. They keep things lively. Mina turned to them with a grin. Hey, you two should join in. Tokoyami, I bet your Murkrow would love a race against Carvania. Tokoyami raised an eyebrow. I doubt my Murkrow would find that amusing, but I appreciate the thought. Ribbit, Tsuyu added. It's nice to see everyone getting along already. On the upper deck, Izuku Midoriya leaned on the railing, staring out at the endless ocean. His Eevee rested on his shoulder, its tail occasionally brushing his cheek. Mind if I join you? Achiko Uraraka's voice came from behind him. Izuku turned, startled, and nearly dropped the Pokeball he'd been fiddling with. Oh, sure, Achiko. She smiled and joined him at the railing, clutching the hand-me-down Pokeball from her father. It's appealing out here, isn't it? Yeah, Izuku said, his voice soft. It feels big, like anything could happen. Achiko nodded, her expression thoughtful. It's a little scary though. Leaving home, not knowing what's ahead. Izuku glanced at her, noticing the faint nervousness in her tone. Yeah, but it's also exciting, right? We're going to UA. We'll learn so much, meet so many people, and… He stopped, realizing he was rambling. Sorry, I get carried away sometimes. Achiko giggled. Don't apologize. It's nice hearing someone so optimistic. They stood in silence for a moment, the sound of the waves filling the air. I think you'll do great, Achiko said suddenly. Izuku blinked. Huh. At you, she continued, her smile warm. I can tell you're passionate. That's the kind of thing that makes a great trainer. Izuku's cheeks turned red. Thank you. I think you'll be amazing too. Their quiet moment was interrupted by a loud clearing of the throat. Ahem, Tenya Ida said, appearing behind them. Achiko, it's getting late. Perhaps we should all head inside and prepare for tomorrow. Achiko tilted her head, confused by his unusually formal tone. Oh, sure, Ida. Izuku nodded quickly. Why, yeah, good idea. Rest is important. As they headed back toward the cabins, Ida couldn't help but glance at Izuku, an almost imperceptible frown on his face. The SS and pulled into the massive port, but the students quickly realized this was no ordinary docking. Towering before them was the school itself. UA High School, a massive, futuristic ship that dwarfed even the luxurious SSN. Shaped like a colossal floating city, it gleamed in the sunlight, with multiple tiers and training grounds visible from the outside. Students crowded the deck to catch their first glimpse of their new home, their Pokémon buzzing with excitement or trepidation. Wow, Achiko whispered, clutching her Pokeball. It's even bigger than I imagined. Bigger than anything in Kalos, Ida added, his awe evident even through his usual serious demeanor. Katsuki Bakugo, however, scoffed, his shiny Growlithe at his feet. Size doesn't matter if they're all weaklings inside. Izuku ignored Bakugo's jab, his eyes sparkling. This is where it all begins, UA's grand entrance upon disembarking. The students were guided into the main atrium of UA. The interior was just as grand as the exterior, with pristine walls adorned with glowing banners that displayed the school's motto, Rise above, aspire beyond. The group made their way to Classroom 1A, a spacious and high-tech room with large windows offering a view of the endless ocean. Find a seat and settle down, a tired voice drawled. The students turned to see their teacher, Shota Aizawa, leaning against the desk. His disheveled appearance, combined with his tired eyes and loose scarf, was a stark contrast to the grandeur of the school. I'm Shota Aizawa. I'll be your teacher, he said, voice flat. And before you ask, yes, I look like this all the time. No, I'm not here to babysit you. I'm here to teach you how to be the best trainers in the world. The class exchanged unsure glances as Aizawa continued. Whether you want to be a gym leader, a member of the Elite Four, or even the world champion, this school will give you the tools you need to succeed. But don't get too comfortable. This isn't some summer camp for kids who like Pokémon. If you don't meet the standards, you're out. The room went silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Now, enough with the formalities, Aizawa said, waving a hand dismissively. Let's get to the fun part. Starters. Line up. The students filed into a line in front of the desk, where Aizawa had set up a row of Pokeball. Tsuyu Azui, he called. Tsuyu Azui stepped forward, her Poliwag by her side. Aizawa handed her a Pokeball, which opened to reveal a Froakie. The small blue frog immediately turned its back on her, hopping away with an air of defiance. Huh, Tsuyu muttered, unimpressed. Looks like we'll have to work on teamwork. Izuku Midoriya, Aizawa said next. Izuku stepped forward, nervous but excited. The Pokeball opened to reveal a Trico, who instantly ran up to Izuku and hopped onto his shoulder. Trico. It chirped, wagging its tail. Izuku laughed nervously. You're really friendly, huh? Katsuki Bakugo, Aizawa called. Katsuki didn't even wait for the instructions. He marched up, grabbed 2 Pokeball, and released a Charmander and a Torchic. Mine, he said, smirking at the shocked looks from the class. Bakugo, you can't, Aizawa started, but then sighed. You know what? You'll regret it when you can't handle training 2 starters at once. Like hell I can't, Katsuki snapped, both Pokémon already looking fierce and ready to battle. Shoto Todoroki. Shoto Todoroki approached silently. Aizawa handed him a Pokeball, which opened to reveal a Charmander. The fiery lizard stared at him, and Shoto stared back, their calm and focused gazes mirroring each other. Achiko Uraraka. Achiko nervously approached and was handed a Pokeball. When it opened, a female Eevee emerged, her soft fur shimmering in the light. The Eevee tilted her head at Achiko, then nuzzled her leg. Ah, Achiko whispered, crouching down to pet her. Hi there, little one. We're going to be great partners. Momo Yaoyorozu. Momo Yaoyorozu received a Pokeball that contained a Ralts. The shy Pokémon peeked out from behind Momo's leg, hesitant to interact. It's okay, Momo said gently, crouching down. Take your time. I'll be patient. Denki Kaminari. I'm good, Denki said, holding up his Pikachu. I've already got the perfect partner. Tenya Ida. Tenya Ida stepped forward with confidence, receiving a Pokeball that contained a scythe. The speedy Pokémon immediately darted around the room, its sharp blades glinting in the light. Impressive, Ida said, nodding approvingly. You'll make an excellent addition to my team. Fumikage Tokoyami. I'll pass, Fumikage Tokoyami said, his Murkrow cawing on his shoulder. Kyokajairu. Kyokajairu stepped up and released an Absol from her Pokeball. The stoic Pokémon stood silently beside her, its sharp eyes scanning the room. Cool, Jairu said simply. Ijiro Kirishima. Ijiro Kirishima was handed a Pokeball containing an Aron. The small steel Pokémon looked up at him with wide eyes, and Kirishima grinned. You're a tough little guy, huh? Let's get even tougher together. Mina Ishido. Finally, Mina Ishido stepped forward. Her Pokeball revealed a Gumi, which immediately slithered behind her leg, shaking. Ah, don't be scared, Mina said, crouching down. We'll build up your confidence in no time. The class takes shape with their starters chosen. The students began to mingle, introducing their new Pokémon to one another. Achiko approached Izuku, her Eevee trotting beside her. Looks like we both have EVs, she said with a smile. Izuku grinned. Yeah, maybe they can be friends too. Their EVs sniffed each other cautiously before wagging their tails in mutual approval. Ida watched from a distance, his jaw tightening as Achiko and Izuku laughed together. Aizawa clapped his hands, drawing everyone's attention. That's all for today. You've got the rest of the afternoon to get familiar with the school. Don't get lost, he said before leaving the room with his usual air of indifference. The room buzzed with excitement as the students turned to one another. Let's go check it out, Kirishima said, punching the air. I heard there's a whole training arena just for battles. Battle arena. Mina's eyes sparkled. I'm in. I think I'll start with the library, Momo said thoughtfully, gently cradling her Ralts. There's bound to be valuable information about raising Pokémon effectively. Achiko glanced down at her Eevee, who was happily wagging her tail. What do you think, Eevee? Should we explore a bit? The Eevee chirped, hopping up and down. Guess that's a yes, Achiko said, smiling. Group 1, Mina, Kirishima, and Tokoyami. Mina and Kirishima dragged Tokoyami along to find the battle arena. The floating school was massive, with brightly lit corridors and moving walkways to help students get around quickly. Whoa, look at this place! Kirishima exclaimed as they entered the arena. It was a colossal space with multiple battlefields, complete with holographic scoreboards and energy barriers to protect spectators. This is perfect for testing Aaron's strength, Kirishima said, holding up Aaron's Pokeball. Mina released her Gumi, who immediately hid behind her legs. Ah, come on, buddy. You're gonna love it here, she said, crouching down to coax it forward. Meanwhile, Tokoyami's Murkrow perched on his shoulder, eyeing the arena with quiet curiosity. This place has a certain aura, Tokoyami said cryptically. Group 2, Momo, Jairu, and Denki. Momo, Jairu, and Denki decided to explore the academic side of the school. The library was just as impressive as the battle arena, with endless rows of books, digital terminals, and even Pokémon assistants like Porygon ZS helping students locate information. "This is amazing!" Momo exclaimed, her Ralts peeking out nervously from behind her. Denki, on the other hand, looked bored. "You guys are really gonna study right now? The school's huge. We should be checking out the fun stuff." Jiru rolled her eyes. "Not everyone's idea of fun is running around aimlessly, Denki." Fine, Denki said, leaning against a shelf. "Guess I'll just wait here while you nerds do your thing." His Pikachu, however, darted off to explore, prompting Denki to chase after it. Group 3, Bakugo and Shoto Bakugo, still carrying both his Charmander and Torchic, wandered the halls with his usual scowl. "This place better have something good to blow off steam," he muttered. Shoto followed at a distance, his Charmander walking beside him. Unlike Bakugo, Shoto was calm and composed, taking in the sights silently. Eventually, they found the school's training gym, equipped with climbing walls, obstacle courses, and physical fitness machines. Bakugo smirked. "Finally, something useful," he said, already planning a brutal training regimen for his Pokémon. Group 4, Achiko, Izuku, and Ida. Achiko and Izuku wandered the ship together, their EVs walking side by side. "So, how do you like the school so far?" Izuku asked nervously, scratching the back of his head. "It's incredible," Achiko replied, her eyes shining. "I mean, I always dreamed of going to a place like this, but it's even better than I imagined." Izuku smiled, glad to see her so excited. Their EVs seemed to get along well, playfully chasing each other down the hall. Ida followed behind them, his scyther walking in perfect sync with his long strides. "Midoriya, Uraraka," Ida said, clearing his throat. "Perhaps we should be more systematic in our exploration. The ship is enormous, and we could easily get lost." "Oh, come on, Ida," Achiko said, giggling. "It's fun to just wander sometimes." Izuku nodded. "Yeah, besides, we're getting to see parts of the school we might not have found otherwise." Ida frowned but didn't argue further. However, as he watched Izuku and Achiko laugh together, a pang of jealousy stirred in his chest. Evening at UA. As the sun began to set over the ocean, the students regrouped in the cafeteria. The massive dining hall was bustling with activity, with students from other classes mingling and sharing their first-day experiences. "This school is insane," Kirishima said, digging into a plate of food. "I can't believe they've got everything from battle arenas to libraries to obstacle courses." "Yeah, but we've only scratched the surface," Jiru said, sipping her drink. "I heard there's even an underwater Pokémon habitat." "Underwater?" Achiko asked, wide-eyed. "Yep," Jiru replied. "Guess we'll find out soon enough." As the students ate and chatted, a sense of camaraderie began to form among them. Despite their differences, they were all united by a common goal: to become the best trainers they could be. In a quieter part of the school, Tsuyu Azui sat on a bench near the outdoor training pools, staring at her newly assigned Froakie. The small, blue Pokémon sat a few feet away, its arms crossed and eyes narrowed, pointedly avoiding her gaze. Froakie croaked, hopping up onto a rock and turning its back on her. Tsu tilted her head, her finger resting on her chin. "You're not very friendly, are you, Froakie?" Froakie didn't respond, instead flicking its tongue out to catch a passing bug. Tsuyu sighed, pulling out a small packet of Pokémon treats from her pocket. "Maybe you'll warm up if I offer you something to eat." Here. She held out her hand with a treat, but Froakie glanced over its shoulder, snorted, and leapt farther away. "Kuroro," it muttered, shaking its head as if to reject her effort. Tsuyu frowned slightly but remained calm. "I guess you're not hungry. That's okay. We can try something else." She set the treat down on the bench and stood, stretching her arms. "What do you like to do, Froakie? Do you like swimming?" Froakie perked up slightly at the mention of swimming but quickly masked its interest, hopping farther along the edge of the pool. "Swimming it is," Tsuyu said, crouching near the water. She dipped her hand into the cool surface and looked over at Froakie. "Come on, it's nice and refreshing." Karakaro. Froakie eyed her skeptically but finally hopped into the water with a small splash. It swam gracefully, its movements smooth and calculated, clearly in its element. You also seem to respond when I croak like you, Tsuyu said with a small smile, watching Froakie glide across the pool. Froakie ignored her and dove under the water, resurfacing with a triumphant splash. It glanced at her briefly before turning away again. Tsuyu sighed softly. You're not making this easy, are you? She sat back on the bench, watching Froakie enjoy itself in the water. It was clear the Pokémon had potential, but it wasn't going to let her in so easily. I guess we're a lot alike, she said quietly to herself. You keep your distance, just like I used to. Froakie stopped swimming and looked at her, its eyes narrowing as if trying to figure her out. Tsuyu met its gaze calmly. That's okay, Froakie. We'll take it slow. You don't have to trust me right away. But I'm not going anywhere. Karakaro. For a moment, Froakie's expression softened. It hesitated, then swam a little closer to her before hopping back onto the rock. It still didn't approach her directly, but it seemed slightly less hostile. Tsuyu smiled faintly. We'll get there. One step at a time. As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Tsuyu sat quietly with her Froakie, both of them learning to navigate their new partnership. As Tsuyu sat on the bench, the quiet moment between her and Froakie was broken by the sound of footsteps and voices echoing across the training pool area. Wow, this place is amazing. Achiko's cheerful voice rang out. It's incredibly well designed for training purposes, Ida added, his tone analytical as usual. Yeah, they really thought of everything, Izuku said, his Trico perched proudly on his shoulder. Tsuyu turned her head to see the trio walking in her direction, each of them accompanied by their Pokémon. Froakie, still sitting on the rock, perked up immediately, its large eyes locking onto Izuku and his Trico. Hey, Tsu, Achiko called, waving. Tsuyu raised a hand in her usual calm manner. Hi, everyone. What are you doing here, Karo? We're exploring the school, Izuku explained, stepping closer. It's huge and we wanted to check out all the different areas. What about you? I'm trying to bond with Froakie, Tsuyu replied, gesturing toward the blue Pokémon. But it's not easy. As soon as Izuku got close, Froakie hopped off the rock and started making its way toward him, its eyes glued to Trico. Oh wow, Izuku said, crouching down. Is Froakie interested in me? Froakie stopped a few feet away, but before it could get any closer, Izuku's Trico leapt from his shoulder and landed between them, its small body bristling with energy. Tree! Trico barked, glaring at Froakie. Froakie returned the glare, crouching slightly as if ready to pounce. Oh no, Tsuyu said, standing. Froakie, stop. What are you doing, Karo? It looks like they're sizing each other up, Achiko said nervously. I believe a rivalry has been ignited, Ida observed, adjusting his glasses. Izuku scratched the back of his head, looking between the two Pokémon. Maybe they just need to blow off some steam. Tsuyu, what if we have a battle? It might help them understand each other better. Tsuyu hesitated, looking at Froakie. I don't know, Froakie hasn't exactly been listening to me. It's worth a try, Izuku said with a reassuring smile. We can keep it simple, and I'll make sure Trico doesn't go too hard. Froakie glanced back at Tsuyu, then at Trico, and let out a determined croak. It seems Froakie is eager to battle, Ida noted. Tsuyu sighed softly and nodded. Alright, let's do it. But don't hold back, Froakie. The two trainers took positions on either side of the open training area, while Achiko and Ida stood off to the side as spectators. Alright, Trico, Izuku said, his voice steady. Let's give it our best shot. Tree. Trico responded, its tail swishing confidently as it took its stance. Froakie, show me what you've got, Karo, Tsuyu said, trying to sound encouraging. Froakie crouched low, its eyes locked on Trico. Trico, use quick attack. Izuku commanded. Trico shot forward like a green blur, closing the distance between itself and Froakie in an instant. Dodge it, Froakie, Tsuyu called. Froakie leapt into the air with incredible agility, narrowly avoiding Trico's attack. It landed gracefully and retaliated with a burst of bubbles. Bubble! Izuku said. Trico, block it with your tail. Trico spun around, using its tail to deflect the bubbles, which popped harmlessly around it. Now, counter with absorb. Izuku shouted. Trico's body glowed green as it launched a beam of energy toward Froki, striking it head-on. Froki stumbled back, visibly weakened. Froki, don't give up. Tsuyu urged. Use P&D. Froki rushed forward, its hand glowing as it prepared to strike. Trico, meet it with P&D, Izuku called. The two Pokémon collided in the center of the battlefield, their glowing limbs clashing with a loud smack. Trico's strength proved greater, and Froki was sent tumbling backward. Finish it, Trico. Quick attack. Trico dashed forward again, striking Froki before it could recover. Froki collapsed onto the ground, groaning softly before going still. Froki is unable to battle, Ida declared, raising his hand as if officiating. Trico wins. Izuku knelt down, giving Trico a proud pat on the head. You did amazing, Trico. Trico chirped happily. Tsuyu walked over to Froki and crouched beside it, gently picking it up. You did your best, Froki. Thank you, Karo. Froki glanced at her, its expression softening slightly. You're a strong trainer, Tsu, Izuku said as he approached. Froki just needs time to trust you. I know you two will make a great team. Tsuyu looked up at him, her lips curving into a small smile. Thanks, Midoriya. And good job, Trico Karo. Trico replied, puffing out its chest proudly. As the group shared a light-hearted moment, Froki gave a small, reluctant croak of acknowledgement, its icy demeanor starting to thaw just a bit. The Grand Library of UA's floating campus was as impressive as the rest of the school. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, filled with books on Pokémon training, battling, care, and history. The scent of paper and wood polish filled the air, and the soft sound of pages turning created a serene atmosphere. Momo Yaoyorozu sat at a circular table near the corner, surrounded by books and scrolls on Pokémon behavior. Her Ralts stood beside her on the table, nervously clutching the hem of Momo's sleeve. Don't worry, Ralts, Momo said gently, giving her Pokémon an encouraging smile. We'll figure out a way to help you feel more comfortable. This book says understanding your Pokémon's personality is the first step to building trust. Ralts peeked out from behind Momo's arm, its big red eyes scanning the library nervously. Across the table, Kyokajar sat with her Absol lying lazily at her feet. She leaned back in her chair, tapping her fingers on the table as she flipped through a thin book on Pokémon battles. This place is pretty chill, Jairu remarked, her voice casual. Definitely better than all the chaos outside. Momo nodded, carefully flipping a page in the book she was reading. It's nice to have a quiet space to study. I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can for Ralts. Jairu glanced down at Ralts, who quickly ducked behind Momo's arm again. Looks like she's pretty shy, huh? Yes, Momo replied, stroking Ralts's head gently. She's quite timid, but I think with time and patience, she'll come out of her shell. Before Jairu could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the library. Denki Kaminari strolled in, his Pikachu perched on his shoulder. He spotted the two girls and made his way over, grinning as he waved. Hey ladies. Denki greeted, sliding into a chair beside Jairu. What's up? Jairu sighed. Do you always have to be so loud, Kaminari? It's a library. Denki rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Oh right. Sorry about that. His Pikachu hopped off his shoulder and onto the table, wagging its tail as it sniffed at the books. What are you guys working on? Denki asked, leaning forward to glance at the titles. Momo's studying Pokémon behavior, Jairu replied, nodding toward the pile of books. Apparently her Ralts is a bit shy. Ah, that's cute, Denki said, leaning over to get a better look at Ralts. Hey there, little guy. Ralts peeked out cautiously, then quickly hid again. She's a girl, Momo corrected politely. Ah, sorry. She's adorable, though, Denki said, grinning. Jairu smirked. You've got a way with words, Kaminari. Too bad it doesn't work on everyone. Hey, come on, Denki said, feigning offense. I'm just trying to be friendly. Jairu rolled her eyes but couldn't hide the small smile tugging at her lips. So, what about you, Denki? Momo asked, glancing up from her book. How's Pikachu adjusting? Denki looked at his Pokémon, who was now curiously poking at Jairu's Absol. Pikachu's great. We've been together for a while, so we're already pretty in sync. Absol opened one eye to glare at Pikachu, who quickly backed off, looking sheepish. Yeah, maybe too in sync, Jairu said, raising an eyebrow. Denki laughed nervously. Okay, so we're still working on some boundaries. Momo chuckled softly before turning her attention back to Ralts. I hope I can build a bond like that with Ralts someday. You will, Jairu said, her tone reassuring. You're already doing a great job. Denki nodded in agreement. Yeah, Ralts just needs time. You've got this, Momo. Momo smiled warmly at their encouragement. Thank you. That means a lot. As the group continued talking, the atmosphere grew lighter, and even Ralts seemed to relax a little, peeking out from behind Momo's arm more often. Outside the library, near one of the ship's many open decks, a crowd of students had gathered to watch an intense Pokémon battle unfold. The ocean breeze swept through the arena, ruffling hair and Pokémon fur alike. On one side of the battlefield stood Eijiro Kirishima, his Eren stomping its small steel-plated feet in excitement. Across from him was Mina Ishido, her Gumi wobbling nervously in place but determinedly facing its opponent. You ready, Gumi? Mina asked, crouching slightly with a wide grin. Gumi let out a hesitant squeak but nodded, its gelatinous body quivering. This is gonna be awesome. Let's give it our all to Eren. Kirishima cheered, his energy contagious as Eren gave a determined cry. Standing a few feet away, Fumikage Tokoyami leaned against the railing with his arms crossed. His Murkrow perched on his shoulder, its beady eyes watching the battle with keen interest. You two are certainly enthusiastic, Tokoyami remarked, his deep voice calm but tinged with amusement. Of course we are. Kirishima replied with a grin. This is how we get stronger, right? Plus, battling is manly. Mina laughed, stretching her arms. Yeah, and it's way more fun than sitting around doing nothing. Tokoyami nodded, though he remained composed. A display of strength and strategy. Let's see how this unfolds. The battle begins. Kirishima took the initiative. Alright, Eren, start us off with tackle. Let's show them our strength. Eren let out a metallic cry before charging toward Gumi with surprising speed for its small size. Its tiny feet pounded against the deck, determination shining in its eyes. Mina pointed dramatically. Gumi, counter it with Absorb. The gooey dragon Pokémon blinked nervously but obeyed, glowing green as it absorbed energy from the charging Eren. However, Eren's sturdy build allowed it to power through, slamming into Gumi and sending it skidding backward. Nice hit, Eren. Kirishima cheered. Mina pouted. Don't let that discourage you, Gumi. We've got this. Gumi wobbled back to its position, determination flickering in its big, round eyes. Tokoyami observed silently, his hand resting on Murkrow's feathers. Ishido's Gumi has potential, but its lack of confidence may hinder its performance. Kirishima's Eren is relentless. Eren, follow up with Metal Claw. Let's keep up the pressure. Kirishima called out, his fists clenched with excitement. Eren's claws glowed silver as it charged again, aiming to strike Gumi. Dodge it, Gumi! Mina shouted. The small dragon squirmed out of the way just in time, Eren's claws swiping through empty air. Now, hit it with another Absorb. Mina commanded. Gumi glowed green again, this time managing to sap a little more energy from Eren, who stumbled slightly but shook it off. Man, your Gumi's tougher than it looks. Kirishima said with a grin. Mina smirked. Thanks, but we're just getting started. The battle continued with both Pokémon exchanging blows. Eren's tackle and Metal Claw showcased its raw strength, while Gumi relied on Absorb to stay in the fight and chip away at Eren's stamina. Eventually, both Pokémon were visibly tired, their movements slower but no less determined. Let's end this, Eren. Kirishima declared. Use Headbutt. Go full power. Eren charged forward, its head glowing as it prepared for a devastating attack. Mina yelled. Gumi, absorb one last time. Gumi glowed bright green, sapping the last bit of Aaron's energy as it charged. However, Aaron's attack connected, sending Gumi rolling backward. When the dust settled, both Pokémon were lying on the ground, completely exhausted. "It's a tie!" Mina exclaimed, rushing over to Gumi. "You did amazing, Gumi. I'm so proud of you." Kirishima knelt beside Aaron, giving it a thumbs up. "You were awesome, buddy. We'll get even stronger next time." Tokoyami approached the battlefield, his expression unreadable. "A spirited clash. Both of you fought well. Your Pokémon may be inexperienced, but their potential is undeniable." Mina grinned. "Thanks, Tokoyami. That means a lot." Kirishima laughed. "Yeah, thanks, man. Watching a battle is one thing, but being in it, that's the best." Tokoyami nodded. "Indeed. Battles are a test of both trainer and Pokémon. A bond forged in battle is a bond strengthened." Mina and Kirishima exchanged smiles, their excitement renewed despite their exhaustion. The sun was setting, and the sky glowed orange as Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki stood opposite each other in one of the ship's training gyms. The gym was a spacious area, with battle platforms and padded walls designed to endure the fiercest Pokémon battles. Katsuki cracked his knuckles, his trademark smirk plastered on his face. "All right, half and half, let's see what you've got. One-on-one, no holding back. Your Charmander versus mine." Shoto, as calm and composed as ever, nodded slightly. "Fine. But don't blame me if you can't keep up." Katsuki's Charmander stood at his side, its scales gleaming under the gym's bright lights. It let out a confident growl, matching its trainer's fiery personality. Shoto's regular Charmander stepped forward, its flame-tipped tail flickering steadily as it eyed its opponent with quiet determination. "You ready?" Katsuki barked, his eyes blazing with excitement. Shoto nodded. "Whenever you are." The battle begins. Katsuki wasted no time. "Charmander, start with Ember. Light it up." The shiny Charmander unleashed a barrage of small fireballs, each one aimed directly at Shoto's Charmander. "Dodge," Shoto said calmly. His Charmander leaped to the side, evading the attack with ease. "Not bad, but let's see how long you can keep that up." Katsuki grinned. "Charmander, close in with Scratch." The Charmander charged forward, its claws gleaming as it swiped at its opponent. "Counter with Scratch," Shoto ordered. Both Charmanders collided midair, their claws clashing in a burst of sparks. They landed on opposite sides of the battlefield, their tails swishing aggressively. Katsuki laughed. "You think you're strong? Well, you're not. Focus, Charmander. Use Growl," Shoto said, his tone steady. His Charmander let out a low growl, lowering its opponent's attack power slightly. Katsuki scoffed. "Tisish, that won't save you." Charmander hit it with Ember again, full power. The Charmander launched another wave of fireballs, this time with more intensity. "Use Ember to counter," Shoto commanded. The regular Charmander opened its mouth and unleashed its own fireballs, colliding with the incoming attack. The two flames met in the air, creating a fiery explosion that filled the gym with heat. Both Pokémon were panting now, their tails flickering but still burning bright. "Getting tired already? Pathetic." Katsuki yelled. "Charmander, let's end this. Use Scratch one more time and make it count." "Charmander, meet it head-on with Scratch," Shoto said. The two Pokémon charged at each other once more, their claws glowing as they prepared to strike. They clashed in the middle of the battlefield, their movements fast and fierce. The impact sent both Charmanders skidding back. They stared each other down, their flames burning brighter despite their exhaustion. Katsuki grinned. "What? Can't think of anything new." Shoto remained silent, his eyes focused on the battlefield. "Charmander, finish it with Ember. Put everything you've got into it." Katsuki shouted. "Charmander, dodge and counter with Ember," Shoto said calmly. Katsuki's Charmander launched a powerful burst of fire, but Shoto's Charmander sidestepped at the last second and retaliated with its own Ember. The attack hit its mark, engulfing the shiny Charmander in flames. When the fire cleared, Katsuki's Charmander was on the ground, its tail flame dim but still burning. DM it. Katsuki growled, clenching his fists. Shoto's Charmander stood tall, though it was visibly tired. Katsuki stomped over to his fallen Pokémon, kneeling beside it. That was pathetic, you're winning next time. The Charmander gave a weak but determined growl in response. Shoto walked over to his own Charmander, kneeling down to pat its head. Good job. You've earned some rest. Katsuki stood up, his usual scowl replaced with a smirk. You got lucky this time, Todoroki. Next time, we're going all out. Shoto nodded. I'll be ready. The sound of the ship's intercom echoed through the hallways as Izuku, Achiko, Tsu, and Ida were sitting together in the common area near the deck. Attention all 1A students, the voice of a faculty member announced. Please return to your classroom immediately. Your teacher, Shota Aizawa, will SRT you to your dormitories for further orientation. Achiko tilted her head curiously. Dorms? I didn't know we were staying in dorms already. Izuku nodded, his Trico perched confidently on his shoulder. Did you think they'd drop us off back home? Tsu adjusted her hat and glanced at her Froakie, who sat sulking beside her. Yeah, maybe this is a chance to bond more with our Pokémon. I can't wait to see how efficient the dorms are, Ida said, adjusting his glasses as he stood. Living arrangements play a crucial role in fostering a disciplined environment. The four quickly made their way back to the classroom. Inside, they found their fellow classmates already waiting. The air buzzed with excitement as everyone murmured about what was to come. Aizawa stood at the front of the room, his usual tired expression plastered on his face. His Pikachu perched lazily on his shoulder, mirroring its trainer's demeanor. Listen up, Aizawa began, his tone flat but commanding. Your cabins were temporary. Starting today, you'll be moving into your dormitories. This school isn't just about training you to be the best trainers, gym leaders, or champions. It's about creating a strong community. Your dorms will be your new home. He motioned for the students to follow him. I'll give you a tour. Let's go. The dormitories. The students followed Aizawa through the winding hallways of the ship until they reached a large, central corridor. At the end of it were two grand doors marked 1A dorms. Aizawa pushed the doors open to reveal a spacious common area. The room was vibrant and cozy, with couches, tables, and a large TV mounted on the wall. A communal kitchen sat in one corner, complete with modern appliances and a stocked fridge. This is the common room, Aizawa said. You'll spend a lot of your free time here. It's where you can relax, study, and bond with your classmates. He led them to the hallways branching off from the common area. These are your dorm rooms. Each of you will have your own room to customize however you like. Your Pokémon are allowed to stay with you, but keep in mind that any damage caused by them is your responsibility. Aizawa gestured to the staircases on either side of the dormitory. Girls' rooms are on the left side, boys on the right. The floors above have facilities like a training room, a study hall, and even a small battle arena for practice matches. The students were visibly impressed. Mina practically squealed with excitement. This place is amazing. It's like a mini hotel. Kirishima grinned, patting his Eren on the head. Man, I can already tell this is gonna be awesome. Tokoyami nodded in quiet approval. The dorms are satisfactory. His Murkrow cawed in agreement. As the students explored, Aizawa continued his tour, pointing out various amenities. You'll find laundry facilities downstairs and a cafeteria on the lower deck. Meals will be served there, but you're welcome to cook your own food in the kitchen if you prefer. Just don't blow anything up. Bakugo snorted, crossing his arms. Like I'd waste time cooking. Shoto glanced around, his expression neutral. This is well organized. Denki leaned over to Jaira. I wonder if the TV gets any good channels. Jaira rolled her eyes but smirked. Maybe we'll find out after everyone's done unpacking. Aizawa clapped his hands, silencing the chatter. That's it for the tour. Unpack your things, settle in, and get comfortable. Starting tomorrow, your Real training begins. As the students dispersed to their rooms, Izuku, Achiko, Tsu, and Ida lingered for a moment in the common area. Wow, Achiko said, her eyes wide as she looked around. This place feels like home already. Izuku smiled. Yeah, it's really nice. I can't wait to start training and learning more about Pokémon. Sue glanced at her Froakie, who was still sulking but now eyeing the surroundings with interest. Carol, maybe this is the fresh start we needed. Ida straightened his posture, his voice filled with determination. This environment will surely foster growth and discipline among all of us. Let us make the most of it. As they headed to their respective rooms, the sense of anticipation in the air was palpable. This was the beginning of a new chapter, a chance for each of them to grow stronger, both as trainers and as individuals. Next week, the real adventure would begin. A few weeks had passed since Class 1A settled into their dorms on the floating UA school. The students had grown more comfortable in their new environment, bonding with each other and their Pokémon. Training sessions, study hours, and battles had become a part of their daily routine, and everyone was eager to keep growing stronger. One morning, Aizawa stood at the front of the classroom, his usual tired expression giving nothing away as the students settled into their seats. His Pikachu lazily yawned on his desk, sparking faintly as it stretched. All right, listen up, Aizawa began, his tone as flat as ever. Starting next week, Class 1A will be divided into groups and sent to different regions. The announcement caused a ripple of murmurs throughout the classroom. Wait, we're splitting up? Mina asked, leaning forward in her seat. Yes, Aizawa confirmed. Each group will be dropped off in a different region to train and gain real-world experience. This school isn't about coddling you, it's about preparing you to excel as trainers, gym leaders, or even champions. You'll be sent to regions where you'll encounter different challenges, Pokémon, and trainers. This is your chance to put everything you've learned so far to the test. He picked up a clipboard and began reading the assignments aloud. Kalos, Izuku Midoriya and Kyoka Jair. Alola, Mina Ishido and Shoto Todoroki. Kanto, Eijiro Kirishima, Denki Kaminari, and Achiko Uraraka. Hoenn, Momo Yaoyorozu and Tsuyu Azui. Unova, Tenya Ida. Sinnoh, Katsuki Bakugo. The class erupted in reactions, some excited, others surprised, and a few nervous. Sinnoh, Bakugo muttered, a smirk creeping onto his face. Perfect. I'll crush everyone there. Hoenn sounds appealing, Momo said, already thinking about the types of Pokémon she might encounter there. Trust me, you'll love it. Izuku said, smiling at the fact one of his friends will be at his home region, Alola. Isn't that where the beaches are? Mina grinned, nudging Shoto. Looks like we're going tropical. Shoto nodded silently, though a faint smile tugged at his lips. Kanto, Achiko said, glancing at Kirishima and Denki. That's where you two are from, isn't it? I've always wanted to visit there. Unova, Ida exclaimed, his voice filled with determination. I'll uphold the honor of Class 1A and represent us with dignity. Meanwhile, Izuku glanced over at Jairu, who was busy doodling in her notebook. Looks like it's just the two of us for Kalos, he said with a small smile. Jairu glanced up. Yeah, I guess it is. Should be interesting. Aizawa cleared his throat, bringing the room's attention back to him. You'll be given your assignments and travel details over the next few days. While in these regions, you'll have access to a base of operations and be expected to complete specific objectives. This includes battling gym leaders, helping with regional research, and participating in local tournaments. Your progress will be monitored, and failure to meet expectations will have consequences. His eyes scanned the room, ensuring the weight of his words sank in. You've had time to settle in here, but this is where the real work begins. Dismissed. After class, the students gathered in small groups, discussing their upcoming assignments. I'm gonna miss hanging out with everyone, Mina said, pouting as she leaned on Shoto's shoulder. Don't worry, Kirishima said with his usual grin. We'll all see each other again soon. Let's make sure we're stronger by the time we meet up. Denki nodded enthusiastically. Yeah. I'll bring back some super cool Pokémon from Kanto. You mean you'll get lost trying to find them? Jairu teased, earning a laugh from the group. Meanwhile, Izuku and Achiko stood by the dormitory window, looking out at the vast ocean surrounding the school. Kalos seems like a great place to learn more about Pokémon, Izuku said. I've heard they focus a lot on bonds between trainers and their Pokémon. Achiko smiled. It sounds like the perfect fit for you. Just make sure you don't overwork yourself, okay? Izuku chuckled nervously. I'll try. You take care of yourself in Kanto too. I know you'll do great. As the students continued to prepare, the air was filled with a mix of excitement, nervousness, and determination. This was their chance to grow not just as trainers, but as individuals. The floating UA school continued its course across the ocean, carrying its students toward the adventure of a lifetime. The day had arrived. UA's floating school had finally set sail for its first destination, the Kalos region. The students of Class 1A were bustling with energy as they prepared for their drop-offs in their assigned regions. While the prospect of adventure excited them, the looming idea of being separated weighed on their minds. In the main classroom, Aizawa stood at the front with his usual unimpressed expression, his Pikachu perched on his shoulder. The students, however, were abuzz with conversations about their upcoming journeys. Everyone, settle down, Aizawa called out, instantly silencing the room. Before we arrive at our first destination, I need to explain a few things. The students leaned in, their attention focused on their teacher. You'll each be dropped off at your assigned regions, where you'll spend a month training, battling, and experiencing what it truly means to be a Pokémon trainer. This isn't just an extended vacation, it's a test. How well you do during this time will directly affect your ranking and reputation at UA. He paused, letting the words sink in. After 1 month, UA will return to pick you all up and will host a televised tournament on the school. This event will showcase how much you've grown as trainers, as well as the Pokémon you've caught and trained during your time away. Gym leaders, Elite Four members, and even regional champions will be watching. The room erupted in chatter. A televised tournament. Mina said, her eyes sparkling. That sounds awesome. Regional champions. Kirishima grinned, his fists clenched in excitement. This is our chance to show the world what we've got. Imagine the pressure, Juru muttered, crossing her arms. Pressure is a privilege, Ida declared, standing tall. We must give it our all to represent Class 1A. Aizawa raised a hand to quiet them. That also means you'll be judged not just on your battling skills, but on your conduct, teamwork, and problem-solving abilities. Remember, the goal isn't just to win, it's to grow as trainers and individuals. Use this month wisely. As the floating UA continued toward Kalos, the students scattered to prepare for their drop-offs. The dorms were buzzing with last-minute packing, Pokémon grooming, and plenty of excitement. In the common area, Izuku was helping Trico stretch its legs, while Achiko polished her Eevee's fur. Do you think we'll be ready for the tournament? Achiko asked, brushing her Eevee's tail. I think so, Izuku replied, giving Trico a pat on the head. We've all been working hard, and a month in the field will give us plenty of experience. Besides, it's not just about winning the tournament, it's about showing how much we've learned. Nearby, Bakugo was glaring at the map of Sinnoh displayed on his Pokédex, memorizing every detail. Sinnoh is full of tough terrain and tougher trainers. Perfect. I'll wipe the floor with everyone there. You're really confident, huh? Shoto said as he passed by, his Charmander walking beside him. Tisich, it's not confidence, I see hot it's fact, Bakugo snapped. Meanwhile, in the library, Momo was flipping through a book on Hoenn's diverse Pokémon ecosystems. It says here that Hoenn is home to many water and grass types. I'll need to prepare Ralts for those matchups. Sounds like you've got your hands full, Jiru said, leaning against the table. But I'm sure you'll figure it out. Momo smiled. Thanks, Jiru. How about you? Are you ready for Kalos? I guess, Jiru said with a shrug. Kalos is known for elegance, right? I'm not exactly the elegant type. Don't sell yourself short, Momo said, giving her an encouraging smile. Later that evening, the students gathered on the deck as the school sailed closer to the Kalos region. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the ocean. Aizawa joined them, standing at the bow with his arms crossed. Remember, you're not alone out there. Stay in touch with your classmates and your mentors. Use this opportunity to build connections, learn from your experiences, and push yourselves to new limits. As the students looked out at the ocean, the weight of the journey ahead settled over them. For some, it was an exciting new challenge. For others, it was a daunting step into the unknown. But one thing was certain: this was their chance to prove themselves not just to the world, but to each other. The ship's horn echoed across the water, signaling the beginning of their adventure. "Next stop, Kalos," Aizawa announced. Izuku tightened his grip on Trico, Ochako smiled at her EV, and the rest of the students exchanged determined glances. Their journeys were about to begin. The air was electric with excitement as the massive UA vessel docked at the first destination, the Kalos region. The floating school slowed to a stop, its horn blaring to signal the students assigned to Kalos that it was time to disembark. On the deck, the students of Class 1A who were bound for Kalos gathered their bags and made their way toward the gangplank. Deku, his Trico perched on his shoulder, adjusted his backpack nervously. Jairu walked beside him, her Absol trotting at her feet with its usual stoic expression. "Looks like this is where we get off," Jairu said, glancing back at the others. Denki grinned, holding his Pikachu on his arm. "Don't worry, you two. We'll hold things down in Kanto." Ochako, clutching her EV, waved at them with a bright smile. "Good luck, you guys. Don't let Kalos overwhelm you." Izuku smiled back, a mix of nervousness and determination in his eyes. "Make sure you and Evie train hard." "I always do," Ochako replied with a playful wink. The gangplank lowered, and the Kalos group began descending toward the dock. As Izuku and Jairu stepped onto solid ground, they turned to watch the massive UA school lift its anchor and set sail once again, heading toward its next destination, Alola. The sight of the school slowly disappearing over the horizon left a bittersweet feeling in the air. "They're really gone," Jairu said softly, crossing her arms. "Yeah," Izuku replied, his gaze lingering on the ship until it was just a speck on the ocean. "But it's only for a month. We'll see them again at the tournament." Jairu smirked, nudging him with her elbow. "You sound more like you're trying to convince yourself." Izuku chuckled nervously. "Maybe a little." The welcome to Kalos, the Kalos dock was bustling with activity. Trainers of all ages were moving about, some greeting returning friends, others preparing to embark on their own adventures. The region's iconic charm was immediately apparent in the elegant architecture and vibrant atmosphere. Waiting for them was a representative from Kalos, a young woman with striking purple hair and a helioptile at her side. She waved at the UA students as they approached. "Welcome to Kalos," she greeted warmly. "I'm Alexa. I'll be your initial guide as you get settled in this appealing region." "Thank you for having us," Izuku said, bowing politely. Jairu simply nodded, looking a little overwhelmed by the lively environment. Her Absol stood protectively beside her, its sharp eyes scanning the area. Alexa smiled. "You're welcome. Kalos is a place full of opportunities for trainers. Over the next month, you'll have the chance to explore, battle, and catch Pokémon unique to this region. We're excited to see what you accomplish." After the formal greeting, Alexa led the group to the nearby Pokémon Center, where they could check in and rest before beginning their journey. "You'll each have a starting stipend to cover essentials," Alexa explained. "Make sure to use it wisely. I'd recommend stocking up on Pokeball, potions, and other necessities." As they entered the Pokémon Center, Jai looked around with mild curiosity. "It's a little fancier than the ones back home, huh?" Izuku nodded. "Yeah, everything here feels elegant. It's like Kalos has its own personality." After settling their accommodations, the two trainers stepped outside to take in the scenery. The streets of Kalos were lined with cobblestone paths, charming boutiques, and flower-filled courtyards. Trainers could be seen battling in designated areas, their Pokémon putting on dazzling displays of skill and power. "Where do we even start?" Jairu asked, shading her eyes from the afternoon sun. Izuku's Trico leapt down from his shoulder and landed on the cobblestones, looking around eagerly. Izuku smiled. "How about we let our Pokémon decide?" Jairu's Absol glanced at Trico, then huffed and looked away, its demeanor as stoic as ever. "Guess that's a no from Absol," Jairu muttered, crossing her arms. Trico, however, darted off down the path, clearly excited to explore. Izuku ran after it. Trico, wait up. Gyru sighed, shaking her head but following with a small smirk. Looks like we're going that way. The pair wandered through the streets of Kalos. The excitement of what lay ahead began to settle in. They knew that this was just the beginning of their journey in a region full of challenges, mysteries, and growth. For Izuku, it was a chance to prove himself not just as a trainer, but as someone who could rise to any challenge. For Gyru, it was a step outside her comfort zone, a chance to learn more about herself and her Pokémon. And as they both watched trainers battling and catching Pokémon around them, they knew one thing for sure: this month would be unforgettable. Trico darted ahead, its green tail swishing as it zipped through the streets of Coumarine City. Every so often, it would stop to sniff a flower bed, hop up on a stone bench, or peer curiously at other trainers and their Pokémon. Behind it, Izuku and Gyru strolled at a steady pace. Izuku's Eevee trotted at his side, trying to mimic Gyru's Absol. The smaller Pokémon attempted to walk with the same composed grace as the stoic Absol but kept tripping over its own fluffy tail. Your Eevee's really trying to keep up with Absol, Gyru noted, smirking as she glanced at the two Pokémon. Izuku laughed lightly, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, I think he looks up to Absol. Absol, as if sensing the compliment, glanced back at Eevee and huffed. It wasn't hostility, just indifference, but it made Eevee puff up its chest and try harder to copy its movements. That's cute, Gyru said, her smirk softening into a smile. They continued to follow Trico through the cobblestone streets. The vibrant energy of the city surrounded them, trainers battling in open courtyards, the aroma of freshly baked goods wafting from nearby cafes, and the melodic tunes of street performers echoing through the air. You know, Gyru said, breaking the comfortable silence, this place is way different from what I expected. Izuku tilted his head. How so? I don't know, it's just so alive, she replied, gesturing to their surroundings. Back in Paldea, things are more straightforward. You go to school, you train, you battle. Here, it's like everyone's doing their own thing, but it all feels connected somehow. Izuku nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like the whole region has its own rhythm. Trico chirped loudly ahead of them, drawing their attention. It was standing on its hind legs, pointing at a trainer and a fletchling engaged in a battle. The small bird Pokémon was zipping through the air, dodging attacks from its opponent. Trico seems really interested in battles, Izuku said, watching his Pokémon's excitement. Yeah, it's got a lot of energy, Gyru agreed. Absol, on the other hand, she glanced at her Pokémon, who was sitting calmly on the sidelines, observing the scene with a detached expression. Absol's more reserved, but it feels like it's analyzing everything, Izuku noted. It's like they're opposites. Gyru raised an eyebrow at him. What, like us? Izuku blinked in surprise, then chuckled nervously. Maybe a little, Gyru smirked. Don't worry, I'm not gonna bite. I actually think it's good that we're different. It keeps things interesting. As they continued walking, Trico led them to a small park where trainers were gathered with their Pokémon. Children played on the grass while trainers engaged in friendly battles. A couple of Pidgey flew overhead, and a group of Flababy floated near the flowers. Trico hopped into the park, chirping happily as it interacted with the wild Pokémon. It approached a Froakie, and the two began a playful game of tag. That's Trico for you, Izuku said, shaking his head with a fond smile. Nearby, a group of trainers noticed the two new arrivals. One of them, a boy with spiky brown hair, approached with a confident grin. Hey, new trainers. You guys up for a battle? Izuku glanced at Gyru, who shrugged. Why not? Let's see what these Kalos trainers have to offer. The boy gestured to his Pokémon, a determined-looking Bunnelby. This little guy's got some serious moves. Who's up first? Izuku stepped forward, Trico bounding back to his side. I'll go. The battle was quick but intense, with Trico using its speed and agility to outmaneuver Bunnelby and land decisive hits. As the crowd of trainers cheered, Gyru crossed her arms, a small smirk playing on her lips. Not bad, Deku, she said as he returned to her side. Thanks, he replied, his cheeks flushing slightly. I think Trico really enjoyed that. The two continued their exploration of the city, with Trico leading the way, interacting with Pokémon and trainers as they went. Izuku and Jiru's conversation flowed naturally, shifting from strategies and training methods to more casual topics about their lives and aspirations. By the time the sun began to set, casting the city in a warm golden glow, they found themselves back at the Pokémon Center. As the two entered the Pokémon Center, the nurse behind the counter handed them a key to their assigned room for the night. Izuku accepted it with a polite bow, while Jiru scanned the surroundings, noting how peaceful the center seemed compared to the bustling city streets outside. When they reached the room and opened the door, they were both met with an unexpected sight: a small, cozy room with just one bed. Jiru froze in the doorway, her face flushing slightly. Is this normal?" Izuku scratched the back of his neck nervously. "I guess. Maybe the center ran out of rooms with 2 beds. Well, this is awkward," Jiru muttered, stepping inside and tossing her bag onto the floor. Izuku closed the door behind them, glancing at the single bed. "You can have the bed. I'll be fine with the chair." Jiru turned to him, crossing her arms. "What? No way. You've been walking around all day. You need rest just as much as I do." "It's fine," Izuku insisted, holding up his hands. "I don't mind. Really." "But it's your room too," Jiru argued. "I'm not gonna take the bed and make you sleep on a chair. That's not fair." The back and forth continued, each of them refusing to back down. Izuku's insistence on being polite clashed with Jiru's refusal to impose, resulting in a heated but friendly debate. "You're too nice for your own good, you know that," Jiru said, narrowing her eyes at him. "And you're too stubborn." Izuku shot back, though his tone was light-hearted. Finally, as Jiru stood by the bed with her arms crossed, her exhaustion from the day caught up with her. She let out a small yawn and plopped onto the edge of the bed, her head drooping slightly. "Why you okay?" Izuku asked, concerned. Jiru mumbled, her voice barely audible. "Just tired." Before Izuku could say another word, Jiru's eyes fluttered shut, and she slumped forward slightly. She had fallen asleep mid-argument. Izuku blinked, his expression softening as he watched her. "Guess that settles it." Moving quietly so as not to wake her, he stepped closer and gently scooped her up in his arms. Jiru murmured something incoherent in her sleep but didn't wake. Izuku carefully laid her down on the bed, pulling the blanket over her. For a moment, he hesitated, watching her peaceful expression. "Good night, Jiru," he whispered before stepping back. He grabbed the chair from the corner of the room, dragging it closer to the bed. Sitting down, he leaned back and folded his arms, closing his eyes. It wasn't the most comfortable spot, but he didn't mind. As the room fell into silence, Absol and Eevee settled near the bed, while Trico perched near the window, gazing out at the city lights. Despite the day's events, the atmosphere in the room was calm and warm, and both trainers rested peacefully. Kyoko woke up to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the window. She blinked groggily, rubbing her eyes as she slowly sat up. As the haze of sleep wore off, she realized she was tucked under the blanket of the bed. "Wait, I fell asleep, didn't I?" she muttered to herself, her voice low. Glancing around, her gaze landed on Izuku, slumped in the chair by the bed, his arms crossed and head tilted slightly to the side. He was fast asleep, his breathing steady and peaceful. Kyoko pieced it together quickly. "Did he?" she murmured, recalling their back and forth about the bed the night before. A faint blush crept across her cheeks as she realized what had happened. She adjusted the blanket and leaned back against the headboard, watching Izuku for a moment. His kindness and selflessness never failed to surprise her. "You're such a dork," she whispered with a small smile. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, breaking the quiet. Careful not to wake Izuku, she reached over and unlocked her phone. A new notification flashed on the screen. Group chat, 1A Adventurous. Her eyes widened slightly as she opened it. Mina had created a group chat and had already sent the first message. "Mina, hey, everyone. Hope you're all having fun out there. Look who I just caught." Partying face attached was a selfie of Mina, grinning from ear to ear, holding up a Mariani with a mischievous glint in its eye. The caption read, "Meet my new partner, Toxic Queen." Kyoko couldn't help but giggle at Mina's enthusiasm, covering her mouth to muffle the sound. Unfortunately, it was loud enough to stir Izuku from his sleep. Izuku mumbled, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. He blinked a few times before realizing Kyoka was awake. "Oh, morning, Jairu." "Morning," she replied, still smiling from the picture. Izuku tilted his head, noticing her amusement. "What's so funny?" Kyoka held up her phone, showing him the picture Mina had sent. Mina started a group chat for everyone. She caught a Mariani and named it Toxic Queen. Izuku chuckled softly, still shaking off his drowsiness. "That sounds like something Mina would do. I guess she's enjoying Alola." Kyoka nodded. "Looks like it. I bet the others will start chiming in soon." As they continued scrolling through the chat, more messages began to pour in. "Denki, cool. But did it zap you yet?" "Mina, nope. She loves me already." "Kirishima, that's so manly. Can't wait to see her in action." "Achiko, she's so cute. Good job, Mina." "Bakugo, who cares? I'll crush her at the tournament." Kyoka glanced at Izuku. "Looks like everyone's having fun in their regions. We've got to catch up." Izuku nodded, a spark of determination in his eyes. "Yeah. Trico and I are ready for whatever comes next." Kyoka smirked, holding up her phone. "Let's just hope Mina doesn't spam us with more selfies." Izuku laughed. "Something tells me that's exactly what she'll do." After a quick breakfast at the Pokémon Center, Izuku and Jair headed out, their goals set on reaching the nearest route. The path leading out of the city was bustling with trainers and wild Pokémon scurrying through the tall grass. Izuku, holding Trico in his arms, glanced at Jairu and her Absol walking beside her. "We can't fall behind, especially if Mina's already catching Pokémon in Alola," he said with a determined grin. Jairu smirked, adjusting her headphones. "You're really competitive about this, huh? It's just Mina." "Yeah, but still," Izuku said, scratching the back of his neck. "I don't want to be the only one without a new Pokémon when the group chat blows up with their catches." Trico chirped enthusiastically, mirroring his trainer's eagerness. As they ventured further into the route, they came across a patch of tall grass near a cluster of trees. Izuku scanned the area, his eyes darting for any sign of movement. "Let's see what's around here," he said, stepping closer. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the grass. Both trainers stopped, their Pokémon alert. A small bird Pokémon hopped out of the grass, its bright red and white feathers catching the sunlight. "A fletchling!" Izuku exclaimed, pulling out his Pokédex. Fletchling, the tiny robin Pokémon. Despite its compact size, this Pokémon is very courageous. It will fiercely attack much larger opponents if provoked. Jairu raised an eyebrow. "Seems like a solid first catch. You going for it?" Izuku nodded, his eyes lighting up with determination. "Yeah. Trico, you're up." Trico jumped out of Izuku's arms, landing gracefully in front of Fletchling. The bird Pokémon tilted its head, studying its opponent before letting out a chirp and spreading its wings in challenge. "All right, Trico, use P&D," Izuku called. Trico dashed forward, its tail glowing as it struck Fletchling. The bird staggered but quickly recovered, retaliating with a quick tackle that caught Trico off guard. "Don't let it shake you. Use Absorb." Trico's body glowed green as it drained energy from Fletchling, weakening it further. Fletchling flapped its wings, trying to muster the strength for another attack, but it was clearly exhausted. "This is my chance," Izuku said, pulling out a Pokeball. He threw it with precision, and the ball hit Fletchling, pulling it inside. The ball wobbled once, twice, 3 times and then clicked. "Yes, I did it." Izuku cheered, punching the air. Trico ran back to him, equally excited. Jairu crossed her arms with a smirk. "Congrats, Midoriya. Looks like you're officially ahead of Mina, at least for now." Izuku picked up the Pokeball, holding it up proudly. "Welcome to the team, Fletchling." "Now, about that selfie," Jair teased, pulling out her phone. Izuku blinked, then grinned. He crouched down with Trico on one shoulder and the Pokeball in hand while Jair took the picture. A few seconds later, the group chat lit up. Izuku, first catch in Kalos. Meet Fletchling. Bird fire, attached. A selfie of Izuku, Trico, and the Pokeball, with Gyru photobombing in the background with Absol. The replies came almost immediately. Mina, what? No way. You beat me to it. Achiko, ah, so cute. Great job, Deku. Denki, Fletchling's gonna be awesome once it evolves. Kirishima, manly catch, bro Bakugo. Teasich, it's just a stupid bird. Mina, I'm catching something even cooler next. Just you wait. Gyru chuckled, tucking her phone away. Looks like Mina's fired up now. Izuku laughed nervously. Hopefully I didn't start something too competitive. Too late for that, Gyru said, smirking as they continued their journey through the route. Early morning, the morning sun cast a warm glow over the Kalos countryside as Izuku and Gyru sat outside the Pokémon Center. Their Pokémon Trico, Eevee, Fletchling, and Absol were gathered around them, enjoying a light breakfast. So, what's the plan for today? Gyru asked as she stretched, still waking up. Izuku adjusted his gloves, eyes sparkling with determination. We should focus on training. We don't want to fall behind the others, especially with the tournament coming up. Gyru smirked, ruffling Absol's fur. Sounds good. I hope I can get Absol interested in battles. What about you? I want to strengthen Trico and Fletchling's teamwork, Izuku replied, watching as his Trico tried to show off by jumping between rocks. And maybe teach Eevee a new move. Gyru nodded. Then let's get started. She watched Izuku and his Pokémon, noticing how Trico moved with fluidity and instinct. Maybe she could take some inspiration from him. Trico and Fletchling's training. Izuku had Trico and Fletchling practice dodging attacks in sync. Fletchling, quick attack. Trico, match its speed and follow up with PND. The small bird Pokémon shot forward, and Trico leaped beside it. They moved together smoothly, attacking a nearby training dummy. You two are getting better at reading each other, Izuku praised. Let's keep going until it's perfect. Eevee's move training. Eevee, meanwhile, watched Absol intently, as if it wanted to learn something. Izuku knelt beside his partner, petting its soft fur. You want to try something new, buddy? He asked. Eevee wagged its tail enthusiastically. Izuku thought for a moment. Let's see if we can get you to learn baby doll eyes. It could be useful against aggressive opponents. Eevee gave a determined nod before trying to focus its gaze, attempting the move on Trico, who tilted its head in confusion. After an intense morning of training, the group took a break under a large oak tree. Their Pokémon rested, but Eevee kept eyeing Absol, who was resting. Gyru smirked. Looks like Eevee wants to play. Izuku smiled at the thought. Too bad Absol is resting. Eevee let her rest. Suddenly, Absol playfully nudged Eevee, who responded by hopping onto its back and striking a confident pose. Fletchling chirped excitedly, while Trico snickered at the sight. Gyru rolled her eyes. Great, now we have Pokémon trying to outdo each other too. Izuku laughed. At least they're bonding in their own way. As the sun began to lower in the sky, they packed up their things and prepared to head back. Their Pokémon had grown stronger, their teamwork had improved, and even Absol was responding better to Gyru's commands. Gyru stretched. Not bad for a training day. Think we're ready to take on some real battles? Izuku grinned. Only one way to find out. As Izuku and Gyru made their way back from their training session, they noticed a crowd gathering in the town square. A large banner stretched across the entrance to an open plaza. Coumarine City Pokémon Showcase, open stage for trainers. Gyru raised an eyebrow. A showcase? I thought those were mainly for performers. Izuku adjusted his bag strap, intrigued. It looks like an open event. Maybe we should check it out. Gyru glanced at her Absol, who was cleaning its claws nonchalantly. I dunno, performing isn't really my thing. Izuku placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We don't have to do anything flashy. Let's just see what it's about. After a moment, Gyru sighed. Fine, but if this turns into some cringy performance, I'm blaming you. Inside the showcase hall, the showcase stage was filled with trainers displaying their Pokémon's talents not just in battles, but in contests of agility, skill, and elegance. Some Pokémon danced, others showed off their moves in synchronized performances. Izuku and Gyru stood near the back, watching as a Sylveon performed a graceful ribbon dance with its feelers, dazzling the audience. Gyru crossed her arms. I don't know how to feel about this. A host announced, would anyone like to take the stage for a free demonstration? Show us what your Pokémon can do. Izuku nudged Gyru. Wanna give it a try? Gyru hesitated. I mean, Absol's not really the performing type. Izuku grinned. Neither are any of my Pokémon, so we should show off their precision instead. Maybe some battle choreography. Gyru sighed. Fine. But you're going up there too. Izuku chuckled. Deal. The two stepped onto the stage, the crowd murmuring in anticipation. Gyru called out, Absol, you ready? Izuku smirked. Fletchling, let's go. The small bird Pokémon fluttered into the air, while Absol took a steady stance. Fletchling, quick attack. The bird darted forward like a bullet. Gyru smirked. Dodge, then follow up with Night Slash. Absol disappeared for a split second, narrowly avoiding Fletchling's attack before slashing the air just inches from it. The audience gasped as the two Pokémon weaved through each other's moves with precise control. Izuku gave the next command. Fletchling, aerial ace. Absol, counter with Psycho Cut. The two attacks clashed, creating a stunning light display before both Pokémon landed gracefully. The crowd erupted in cheers. Gyru brushed her bangs back. Okay, I'll admit that was kind of fun. Izuku laughed. Told you. After the showcase, Izuku and Gyru found a small cafe tucked away from the busy streets. They settled into a booth, ordering drinks while their Pokémon rested. Gyru scrolled through her phone. Looks like everyone's having their own adventures. Uraraka got lost in Diglett Cave, and Bakugo already won a gym battle in Sinnoh. Izuku took a sip of his raspberry juice. We'll have to pick up the pace if we want to keep up. Gyru smirked. You're seriously making this into a competition, huh? Izuku grinned. Everything's training if you think about it. As their drinks arrived, Gyru looked at Izuku thoughtfully. Hey, thanks for dragging me into this. I don't usually do stuff like showcases, but it wasn't bad. Izuku smiled. You're a natural, Gyru. Whether it's a showcase or a real match, I know you'll be amazing. Gyru smiled but quickly sipped her drink to hide it. Yeah, don't get all sentimental on me. As the sun began to set, they sat in comfortable silence, ready for whatever adventure came next. After their training session and the Pokémon showcase, Izuku and Gyru realized they needed to stock up on supplies. Their next stop was a well-known Poke Mart in Coumarine City, a sleek, modern store filled with shelves of potions, Pokeball, and various trainer essentials. As they entered, a cheerful employee greeted them. Welcome. We have everything a trainer needs, from battle items to evolution stones. Gyru grabbed a basket and sighed. Alright, let's get the basics. Potions, Pokeball, and maybe some TMs if they have any good ones. Izuku nodded. We should also check out any camping gear. If we're gonna be here for a month, we'll need everything we can get. As they browsed the aisles, Izuku picked up a few Pokeball and some Oran berries for his team. Gyru meanwhile looked through the TMs, considering moves that might help Absol be closer to her. What do you think of this? She asked, holding up a TM for Shadow Claw. Might give Absol some extra coverage. Izuku nodded. That's a solid choice. I'm thinking of getting Aerial Ace for Trico and to help Fletchling enter. As they were about to check out, a voice called out behind them. Hey, you two look like fresh trainers. How about a battle? Turning around, they saw a young trainer, around their age, wearing a sporty cap and a confident grin. A Pokeball was already in his hand. Name's Remy. I'm a local here in Coumarine, and I never turned down a battle. How about a one-on-one? Izuku and Gyru exchanged glances before Izuku stepped forward. I'll take you on. Gyru smirked. I'll watch and make fun of when you mess up. Remy grinned. Alright, let's do this outside. The three of them left the store and found an open training ground nearby. A small crowd of onlookers gathered as Remy tossed his Pokeball into the air. Let's go, Litleo. A small lion cub Pokemon emerged, flames flickering from its fur. Izuku pulled out his own Pokeball. Alright, Fletchling, let's do this. The small bird fluttered into the air, chirping confidently. The battle begins. Remy smirked. Lit Leo, Ember. The lion cub exhaled a small burst of fire, shooting toward Fletchling. Izuku reacted quickly. Dodge with quick attack, then circle around. Fletchling zipped through the air, narrowly avoiding the flames before positioning itself behind Lit Leo. Remy grinned. Not bad, but let's see how you handle this Lit Leo tackle. Lit Leo dashed forward with impressive speed. Izuku saw an opening. Fletchling, counter with aerial ace. Fletchling dove downward, its wings glowing as it collided with Lit Leo mid-charge. The impact sent Lit Leo rolling back. Remy gritted his teeth. Come on, Lit Leo. Get up. Lit Leo stood, shaking off the attack. Izuku kept up the pressure. One more quick attack. Fletchling darted forward, striking Lit Leo head-on. The lion cub let out a small growl before collapsing onto its belly, unable to continue. The small crowd clapped, and Remy returned his Pokémon. Man, you're good. That Fletchling is fast. Izuku smiled and extended a hand. Good match. Your Lit Leo is strong. Remy shook his hand. Thanks. I'll get stronger and challenge you again someday. Gyru smirked. Come on, man, I was really hoping for you to mess up. I thought of a really good one if you lost. Izuku chuckled. I still have a long way to go. Under the stars after their first battle in Coumarine City, Izuku and Gyru decided to leave the city for a bit and explore the wild routes of Kalos. Following Route 12's vibrant flower fields, they set up camp near a small lake, away from the bustling city lights. The sky was already painted in shades of deep blue and purple, stars beginning to twinkle. Izuku stretched his arms as he looked around. This looks like a great spot. Gyru dropped her bag. Yeah, peaceful enough. Plus, I don't think we'll have any trouble with wild Pokémon this close to the main route. They quickly gathered firewood and set up their small campfire. The warmth of the flames crackled as their Pokémon gathered around. As Izuku's Pokémon relaxed, his Fletchling sat proudly on a rock, ruffling its feathers and chirping happily. Trico, always calm, leaned against a log with his arms crossed, watching Fletchling with a side-eye glance, as if evaluating its every move. Eevee, on the other hand, kept hopping around, excitedly trying to interact with both of them. Fletchling, in return, puffed out its chest and flapped its wings, chirping as if declaring its superiority. Gyru smirked. Your Fletchling acts like it's already a champion. Izuku chuckled. Now I'm wondering who's the strongest among them. Eevee, wanting to play, ran up to Fletchling and wagged its tail. But Fletchling playfully bopped Eevee on the head with its beak before flying up to perch on a branch. Eevee pouted and whined. Trico simply sighed as if saying, this is going to be a long journey. Gyru watched with mild amusement. Looks like Eevee's the little sibling getting teased. Izuku nodded. That's weird considering Eevee is the oldest among them. Fletchling then swooped down and nudged Trico, trying to provoke him into play fighting. But Trico just smirked, planted its feet, and quickly dodged the attack with minimal effort. Izuku grinned. I think Trico is the strongest. As the fire crackled and Izuku continued watching his Pokémon interact, Gyru glanced at her Absol, who was sitting a bit further away, staring at the night sky. Gyru scooted closer. Hey! Absol's crimson eyes flicked toward her before looking back up. Gyru sighed. You're still keeping your distance, huh? She gently reached out and ran her hand over Absol's white fur. She didn't move away but didn't lean into it either. You don't have to be so serious all the time, she murmured. I get it. You're a disaster Pokémon. People probably see you and think you bring bad luck. But I don't think that way. Absol blinked at her. Gyru smirked. I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be cool to have a Pokémon that's all serious and brooding, but you don't have to keep your distance from everyone, you know. You're part of the team too. Absol let out a small huff before, to her surprise, nudging his head slightly against her hand. Gyru raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you do like this, huh? Absol huffed again and looked away, but his tail flicked slightly, a small sign of contentment. Gyru chuckled. Yeah, play it cool all you want. Looking up at the stars with the Pokémon settled and the night peaceful, Izuku and Gyru lay back on the grass, looking up at the sky. The stars twinkled brightly above them, and the gentle sounds of Pokémon rustling in the distance filled the air. Jiru stretched her arms behind her head. You know, I didn't expect Kalos to be this relaxing. Izuku smiled. Yeah, but it won't stay like this forever. We still have a tournament to prepare for. Jiru snorted. Thinking ahead, huh? Izuku chuckled. It's just exciting thinking about how much we'll grow. Jiru glanced at him, then back at the sky. Yeah, I guess you're right. A moment of silence passed between them before Jiru spoke again, her voice a little quieter. You ever think about what you want to be? Like, after you ate? Izuku blinked. Of course. I want to be strong enough to compete against the best. I want to become the world's greatest champion. Jiru hummed. Sounds long. What about you? Jiru was quiet for a moment. I don't know yet. I mean, being a trainer is cool and all, but I don't think I want to be a champion or anything. Izuku turned his head slightly toward her. Then what do you want to do? She shrugged. Guess I'll figure it out as I go. Izuku smiled. That's fair. The two fell into a comfortable silence again, watching the stars as their Pokémon rested. Tomorrow, they'd continue their journey. But for tonight, this peaceful moment under the stars was enough. Izuku and Kyoka strolled leisurely through the route, the sun casting warm rays through the canopy of trees. Trico was perched on Izuku's shoulder, occasionally chittering in excitement at passing Pokémon. Absol walked silently beside Jiru, its stoic demeanor matching its trainer's casual stride. So, Izuku began, glancing over at Kyoka, how do you think everyone's doing in their region so far? Kyoka shrugged, her hands tucked into her jacket pockets. Knowing Mina, she's probably running around Alola catching every Pokémon she can find. Kaminari and Kirishima are probably battling each other nonstop. And Uraraka is probably petting every Pokémon she comes across. Izuku chuckled. Yeah, that sounds about right. Kyoka's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, and her face lit up with a smirk. Speaking of, looks like the group chat's blowing up again. She opened the chat, and Izuku peeked over her shoulder. Mina, caught a Grima. It's so adorable. Attached, a selfie of Mina holding up a Pokeball, her Alolan Grimer struggling to stay perched on her shoulder with a sparkle filter applied. Denki, nice. But check this out. Attached, a photo of Denki and Kirishima posing with their Pikachu and Aaron after a battle, both Pokémon looking determined. Achiko, they won't stop battling, we haven't gotten anywhere. Bakugo, stop wasting time and ditch them, round face. Kyoka snorted. Mina's really going for that colorful aesthetic. And of course Bakugo's being himself. Izuku smiled sheepishly. At least it's keeping everyone connected. It's nice to know what everyone's up to. As they walked, Trico suddenly perked up, leaping off Izuku's shoulder and pointing toward a dark opening in the rocky hillside. Trico! Ha! Izuku followed its gaze and spotted the entrance to a cave. Looks like we found something interesting. Kyoka raised an eyebrow. A cave. You think it's worth checking out? Definitely. Who knows what kind of Pokémon are in there? Izuku grinned, then turned to Kyoka. Tell you what, you can take the next catch. Deal. Kyoka hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, deal. The duo entered the cave, the light from the entrance gradually fading as they ventured deeper. Stalactites hung from the ceiling, and the air was cool and damp. Kyoka's Absol took the lead, its sharp senses keeping them alert. Man, this place is huge, Kyoka said, her voice echoing slightly. Izuku nodded. Yeah. It's kind of eerie, but also exciting. As they navigated the winding paths, the faint sound of fluttering wings reached their ears. Absol stopped in its tracks, growling softly. What's that? Kyoka whispered, looking around. Before Izuku could answer, a shadow darted overhead. A small, bat-like Pokémon with large ears and purple wings swooped down, letting out a high-pitched screech. It's a Noibat! Izuku exclaimed, pulling out his Pokédex. Noibat, the sound wave Pokémon. It uses ultrasonic waves to sense its surroundings. Even in the dark, it can detect obstacles and prey. Kyoka smirked. A sound wave Pokémon. Sounds like it's right up my alley. Noibat looks strong, Izuku said. You ready to catch it? Of course. Kyoka stepped forward, Absol moving to her side. Alright, Absol, let's do this. Use quick attack. Absol darted forward with lightning speed, striking Noibat before it could react. The bat-like Pokémon flapped its wings furiously, unleashing a supersonic attack. Absol, dodge it? Kyoka called. Absol leapt back, avoiding the disorienting sound waves. Noibat's a fighter, Izuku noted. You've got to weaken it a bit more. Got it? Absol, use feint attack. Absol disappeared for a moment, reappearing behind Noibat and landing a precise strike. Noibat staggered, its energy visibly depleted. Now's your chance. Izuku encouraged. Kyoka pulled out a pokeball and threw it with precision. The ball hit Noibat, pulling it inside. It wobbled on the ground once, twice, 3 times and clicked shut. Kyoka let out a relieved breath, walking over to pick up the pokeball. Caught it. Izuku clapped. Nice work, Jaya. Noibat's going to be a great addition to your team. Yeah, Kyoka said, a small smile tugging at her lips. She pulled out her phone and opened the group chat. Kyoka, just caught a Noibat. Looks like I'm not falling behind either. Attached. A selfie of Kyoka holding the pokeball with Absol sitting stoically beside her in the cave. The replies rolled in quickly. Mina, what? That's so cool. I want one now. Denki, okay, Noibat's awesome. Respect. Achiko, you guys are really fast at this Bakugo, whatever. It's just a bat. Ida, good find. Caves are definitely worth exploring. Kyoka chuckled, slipping her phone back into her pocket. Guess we're not the only ones exploring caves. Izuku smiled. We're off to a strong start in Kalos. Let's keep it up. With Noibat added to Kyoka's team, the duo continued their exploration, ready for whatever the Kalos region had in store. The dimly lit cave seemed to stretch endlessly as Izuku and Kyoka continued their exploration. The glowing stones embedded in the walls cast an otherworldly light, making the cavern shimmer in blues, greens, and purples. Trico walked confidently ahead, occasionally tapping on the walls with its tail, while Eevee trotted alongside Kyoka, its nose twitching. Man, this place is amazing, Kyoka said, glancing at the glowing stones. Feels like we're in some kind of treasure vault. Izuku nodded, eyes scanning the cavern. Yeah, it's appealing. These stones must have some significance. Maybe they're evolutionary stones or something. That sparked an idea in Kyoka's mind. Hey, Izuku, she said, turning to him, why don't we use Eevee's good nose to sniff out anything rare? Who knows, maybe we can find something valuable to bring back as souvenirs. Izuku's face lit up. That's a great idea. Eevee's sense of smell is incredible. What do you think, Eevee? Eevee. The small Pokémon barked enthusiastically, wagging its tail as it began sniffing the air. Trico crossed its arms, giving a small huff as if to say it could have found the stones just as easily. As Eevee started its search, Kyoka's phone buzzed with a notification. She opened the group chat, and her eyebrows raised in surprise. Achiko, look what I got. Attached. A photo of Achiko holding an egg with pink and white patterns, cradling it like a treasure. Achiko. A trainer gave it to me because they didn't have room to raise it. Isn't it cute? Kyoka showed the message to Izuku, who leaned in to look. An egg. Izuku said, smiling. That's amazing. I wonder what will hatch from it. Kyoka grinned. She's already becoming a natural trainer, huh? She typed out a quick reply. Kyoka, nice find. You've got to let us know what hatches. Denki, I think you guys left me in the last town. Can you turn back? Mina, I want an egg too. Bakugo, eggs are useless. Just focus on battles, round face. Kyoka snorted, slipping her phone back into her pocket. It would SCK to be on a journey with Kaminari, huh? A few minutes later, Eevee barked excitedly, tail wagging as it pawed at the ground near a cluster of glowing stones. Did you find something, Eevee? Izuku asked, kneeling down. Eevee dug into the dirt a little, carefully pulling out a smooth stone that shimmered white and blue. It turned and dropped the stone into Kyoka's hands, looking up at her expectantly. Whoa, Kyoka whispered, holding the stone up to the light. This is gorgeous. It's almost icy. Trico tilted its head in mild curiosity but then turned its gaze to where Evie had continued sniffing. Moments later, Evie unearthed another stone, this one green and red, and nudged it toward Izuku. This one's for me. Izuku asked, picking it up. The stone felt warm in his hand, the red and green colors swirling together in a mesmerizing pattern. Kyoka inspected the stones closely. These are definitely special. We should get them checked out. Izuku nodded. Good idea. Geosenj Town is nearby. They might know more about them. All right, let's head there, Kyoka said, tucking the icy stone into her bag. She gave Evie a pat on the head. Good work, Evie. Evie. It wagged its tail proudly before hopping onto Izuku's shoulder. With their treasures in hand, Izuku and Kyoka made their way out of the cave, the light from the entrance growing brighter as they neared the exit. We're off to a great start, Izuku said, smiling. If these stones are what I think they are, they could really come in handy later. Yeah, Kyoka agreed, glancing at the glowing walls one last time. And even if they're not, they're still pretty cool to have. As they stepped back into the sunlight, the duo set their sights on Geosenj Town, ready to uncover the secrets of their newfound stones. The sun dipped below the horizon as Izuku and Kyoka made their way down the winding route toward Geosenj Town. The golden light of dusk slowly gave way to the deep blues and purples of twilight, and the chirping of wild Pokémon filled the air. It's getting pretty late, Kyoka said, glancing around. We should probably stop for the night. There's a clearing over there, looks like a good spot to camp. Izuku nodded, adjusting his bag. Good idea. We can set up here for now. Kyoka set her bag down with a determined expression. I'll handle setting up camp tonight, but tomorrow you're doing it while I train. Izuku grinned. Fair enough. I'll use the time to train my team a bit. Sound good? Kyoka nodded as she pulled out a small tent and started unpacking supplies. Go for it. Just don't overdo it. I won't, Izuku promised. He stepped a few feet away into an open patch of grass and pulled 3 Pokeball from his belt. All right, guys, let's get some training in. He tossed the ball into the air, releasing Trico, Fletchling, and Evie. The trio emerged in flashes of light, ready and eager to get to work. All right, everyone, Izuku said, clapping his hands. Tonight, we're focusing on building your moves and teamwork. Let's do this. Fletchling's progress. Izuku focused on Fletchling first. The little bird fluttered in the air, its determination evident. Izuku encouraged it to practice its peck attack on a nearby tree, but he noticed it was trying something new. Are you trying to heat up your wings? Izuku asked, watching as Fletchling's feathers glowed faintly red. The bird chirped in response, flapping harder. After a few tries, it released a small burst of flames, igniting the tip of its beak as it struck the tree. That's it, Fletchling. Izuku cheered. You just learned Ember. Great job. Fletchling puffed out its chest proudly before landing on Izuku's shoulder. Evie's progress next. Izuku turned to Evie. He set up a series of small rocks in a line. All right, Evie, let's work on your speed and precision. Try using quick attack to dodge around the rocks, then hit the last one with tackle. Evie darted through the rocks with ease, but when it reached the final one, something unexpected happened. Instead of tackling the rock, Evie leaped into the air and released a flurry of glowing stars that struck the target. Izuku's eyes widened. That's swift. Evie, you're amazing. Evie landed gracefully, wagging its tail as if to say, I know. Trico's progress finally. Izuku worked with Trico. The grass-type Pokémon stood confidently, ready to show off its skills. All right, Trico, Izuku said, let's try something new. Focus your energy into your tail and see if you can create a stronger strike. Trico closed its eyes, its tail glowing faintly green. It charged forward, slamming its tail into a rock with incredible force. The impact shattered the rock, and a pulse of energy rippled outward. Whoa, was that dragon tail? Izuku said in amazement. Trico opened its eyes and smirked, clearly proud of itself. Campfire conversations. By the time training was done, Kyoka had set up a cozy campsite with a tent, a small fire, and some simple cooking supplies. She looked up as Izuku returned with his team, all of them looking energized and accomplished. "Looks like you had a productive session," Kyoka said, handing him a plate of food. Izuku sat down, smiling. "Yeah, they all learned new moves. Fletchling can use Ember now, Eevee learned Swift, and Trico figured out Dragon Tail." Kyoka raised an eyebrow. "Not bad. Looks like I'll have to step up my game tomorrow." As the two ate and talked by the fire, their Pokémon rested nearby, content and ready for the adventures to come. The stars above sparkled brightly, lighting their path toward Geosenge Town and whatever challenges awaited them there. After a long night of training and camping under the stars, the morning sun filtered through the trees, casting a golden glow over the clearing. The air was fresh, and the sounds of chirping fletchling filled the surroundings. Kyoka stretched as she emerged from the tent, rubbing her eyes. "Ugh, I'm sore," she mumbled. "Sleeping on the ground sucks." Izuku chuckled, already awake and organizing his bag. "You'll get used to it. Besides, we've got an important task today." Kyoka raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what's that?" Izuku gestured toward their Pokémon, who were stretching and waking up. "We've been traveling non-stop, training and battling. Our Pokémon deserve a little care. We should clean them up before we reach Geosenge Town." Kyoka crossed her arms, glancing at her Absol, who was currently licking its paw with its usual stoic expression. "Guess that makes sense." Izuku and Kyoka set up a small grooming station with water bowls, brushes, and cloths from their bags. Each Pokémon had their own unique needs, making the process fun if not a little chaotic. Izuku carefully scooped some water into his hands and gently splashed Fletchling's feathers. The little bird immediately fluffed up, flapping its wings in protest. "Easy, Fletchling," Izuku soothed. "You need to clean your feathers or they'll get stiff." Fletchling gave him a defiant chirp and shook itself, spraying water all over Izuku's face. Kyoka snickered from the side. "Having trouble?" she teased. Izuku wiped his face and grinned. "Just a little." He dipped his fingers into the water again and let Fletchling watch. Slowly he rubbed along its wings, careful not to disturb its natural oils. Eventually, Fletchling relaxed and let Izuku finish the bath. "There, all clean," Izuku said, watching as the little bird hopped onto his shoulder, shaking off a few last droplets. Kyoka turned to Eevee, who was sitting obediently with its fluffy tail curled around its paws. "All right, you look easy enough to take care of." She took out a brush and ran it through Eevee's fur, only for a sudden static charge to zap her fingers. What the?" Izuku laughed. "Eevee's fur can build up static if not brushed regularly. Try using softer strokes." Kyoka scowled at the smug-looking Eevee, who flicked its tail. "You think that's funny, huh?" She tried again, this time slower, and Eevee purred contentedly. After a few minutes, the normal type was looking even fluffier than before. Trico watched the process from the side, arms crossed. It glanced at the brush in Izuku's hand, then turned away with a huff, clearly unimpressed. Izuku chuckled. "You don't need much, huh? All right, let's just check your tail and pads." Trico held out its hands, letting Izuku inspect his pads and lightly wipe his tail with a damp cloth. Unlike the others, Trico barely reacted, except for a slight nod of approval when Izuku finished. "Efficient as always," Izuku said with a grin. Kyoka turned her attention to Absol, who sat perfectly still, watching her with its piercing red eyes. "All right, big guy," Kyoka muttered. "Let's see if you're as dramatic about this as you are about everything else." She carefully ran a soft brush through Absol's sleek white fur, working through any tangles. To her surprise, Absol didn't flinch or resist. Instead, it closed its eyes and let out a low, content hum. Kyoka blinked. "Wait, you actually like this?" Izuku smirked. "Looks like you found Absol's weak spot." Kyoka chuckled, continuing her work. "Guess even the most serious Pokémon have their soft sides." As she finished, Absol stretched luxuriously and flicked its tail. Kyoka shook her head. "You're basically a giant, dramatic cat." Absol ignored her, but its satisfied expression didn't go unnoticed. Once grooming was done, the Pokémon looked refreshed and energized. Fletchling with their Pokémon now clean and well-groomed, Izuku and Kyoka took a moment to appreciate their work. Fletchling's feathers gleamed in the morning light, Eevee's fur was softer than ever, Trico's tail looked vibrant, and Absol, despite its usual stoic demeanor, seemed almost relaxed. Kyoka stretched. Alright, so what now? Izuku grinned. We let them have some fun. Playtime is important for a Pokémon's mental and physical well-being. Kyoka raised an eyebrow. You say that like a professor. Izuku chuckled sheepishly. I read a lot of books on Pokémon care. Kyoka shook her head with a smirk. Of course you did. Izuku pulled out a small ball from his bag. Playtime isn't just about fun. It helps Pokémon bond with their trainers and develop skills they can use in battle. Kyoka hummed. Alright, so what kind of games are we playing? Izuku looked at their Pokémon, considering their strengths. Well, let's see. Trico would probably enjoy agility training, Fletchling likes to chase things, Eevee might like fetch, and Absol. He glanced at the dark type, who sat watching with its usual piercing gaze. Well, we'll figure that out. Kyoka smirked. I'm sure he'll tell us if he's not interested. Kyoka took a small, lightweight Pokeball and showed it to Eevee. Alright, little guy. Let's see if you know how to fetch. She tossed the ball a short distance. Eevee's ears perked up and it ran after the ball, but instead of bringing it back, it plopped down and started batting it around like a cat. Kyoka sighed. I should have seen that coming. Izuku laughed. Try using a treat as a reward. That way, Eevee knows what you want it to do. Kyoka reached into her bag, pulling out a poke puff. Alright, Eevee. Bring the ball back and you get this. Eevee's ears twitched at the sight of the treat. It eyed Kyoka, then the ball, then back at the treat before suddenly pouncing on the ball and trotting back with it in its mouth. Kyoka handed over the treat. Good job. Guess you just needed motivation. Eevee happily munched on the poke puff, tail wagging. Izuku pulled out a feathered toy attached to a string and held it up. Alright, Fletchling, let's see how fast you are. He flicked the toy into the air. Instantly, Fletchling took off, zipping after it with impressive speed. Izuku moved the toy around, making sharp turns to test Fletchling's agility. Kyoka watched in amusement. You carry a bird toy with you. Izuku smiled. Fletchling needs aerial training. This helps it react quickly. Fletchling swooped and dived, chasing the toy with intense focus. Finally, with a precise burst of speed, it snatched the toy midair. Izuku grinned. Nice work, Fletchling. The little bird puffed out its chest proudly before perching on his shoulder. Kyoka tapped her chin. Trico's fast, right? Maybe an obstacle course. Izuku nodded. Good idea. Let's set something up. Using sticks, rocks, and logs from the campsite, they quickly put together a makeshift course. The goal was for Trico to dash through, leap over obstacles, and reach the end as fast as possible. Trico stepped up, arms crossed, analyzing the course with narrowed eyes. Izuku smirked. Alright, buddy. Show us what you got. The moment Izuku gave the signal, Trico bolted forward. It weaved through the sticks with precision, leapt over a rock, and even used a nearby tree to propel itself forward. In mere seconds, it reached the finish line, landing with a confident smirk. Kyoka let out a low whistle. That was smooth. Izuku patted Trico's head. Nice job. You're getting faster. Trico grinned, clearly pleased with itself. Kyoka glanced at Absol, who had been silently watching. Alright, big guy. What do you want to do? Absol blinked, then gracefully stood up. Without warning, it dashed forward and leapt onto a nearby rock, surveying the area like a predator. Izuku watched carefully. It seems to like high places. Maybe it enjoys tracking or hunting games. Kyoka thought for a moment, then tossed a small rock into the bushes. Alright, Absol, let's play hide and seek. See if you can find where I threw that. Absol's crimson eyes gleamed. It took a slow step forward, sniffing the air before moving with silent precision. Within seconds, it slipped into the bushes and emerged moments later with the rock in its jaws. Izuku grinned. Impressive. It's got a strong sense of tracking. Kyoka smirked. Yeah, and a strong sense of drama. Absol huffed but didn't deny. After an hour of games, the Pokémon were full of energy and excitement. Kyoka sat back, watching as Eevee chased its own tail, Fletchling preened its feathers, and Trico stretched. Absol simply lay nearby, basking in the morning sun. Izuku smiled. This is important. A strong Pokémon isn't just one that trains hard, it's one that's happy and healthy. Kyoka nodded, watching her Pokémon with a small smile. Yeah, I think I get it now. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Received His Own Pokémon? We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Spider Michael for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zenin Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you soon in the next video.